How do emotionally intelligent people process feedback? Well, here's the first problem with feedback. We're only taught to give it, not receive it. We give it through a sandwich method. Something good, something they need to work on, the negative feedback, and then something good. We end it with something good. So in terms of like giving an evaluation or one-on-one with an employee or two-on-one with an employee or those type of things, we give it this good, work on this, good, and it sets them off with a soft landing with that. But how do we receive feedback? How do we receive it? If somebody isn't trained in the way to give us this sandwich, and with that, or what they're trying to do, their Jedi mind tricks. These are not the droids you're looking for type scenario, right? Well, it comes down to this. We got to think of feedback as what the possibility of feedback is. It is a way for us to invoke Kaizen, or the art of continuous improvement. Or it's made famous in the book Atomic Habits about improving 1% a day. But we need to honestly evaluate the feedback and understand there's feedback coming to us at all times, whether we ask for it or not. And what we have created is this super simple 5-step process that allows emotionally intelligent people, or people who are working on their emotional intelligence, to process feedback in a way that allows them to exponentially improve themselves, organizations, families, processes, all these type of things. It's a one-size-fits-all scenario for you to process feedback in a way that strips away the negative bias that's attached to receiving feedback. Well, here we go. First step is called the SEAL method, SEALL. And we're going to start with the S. So one of two things happen with this S, which is seek. We either seek feedback or it seeks us out. The first step is seeking feedback. Like we ask people, if you own a company or manage a company or any of those type of things, we're asking for feedback all the time. A great example in the industry that I spent most of my adulthood in, which is the restaurant business. There's all of these feedbacks, whether it's on the reservation systems such as OpenTable or Resy, or then there's Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google reviews, all of these places. You can also look at Amazon, how when we're looking for a product to buy from Amazon, and the science behind how people rate weight the ratings of other people. 22,000 reviews, 4.7. We look at that as if it's a recommendation from a close friend. So that's what your business is doing. So we're asking for feedback all the time. But the problem is that when we receive the feedback, we end up putting some sort of emotion on it, positive, neutral, or negative. But before that, I want to get to there's feedback that we don't seek that seeks us out. It may come from a loved one. It may come from a family member. It may come from in an annual evaluation. It may come from a traffic stop where you get speeding or parking or something like that. It can come from anywhere. And so eliminating this surprise from the feedback allows us to move through this process. So first off, feedback seeks us or we seek it out. The second piece is to evaluate the feedback. This is where we strip down, right? We strip down this to the raw form. We evaluate it. The first thing we do with feedback is we categorize it into positive, neutral, or negative. The second thing we do is if it's negative or neutral, neutral is probably discarded. Positive is definitely discarded, which is another whole aspect of we actually can learn just as much from positive feedback as we can from what we determine as negative feedback. But when we strip this emotion away down to the raw foundational aspect of what the feedback actually is, we can then use it all to our advantage. We can make something that we do really good better, or we can make something that we're not doing so good much better and improve that in a short term and over time. So my point is this: evaluate it. We tend to discount it, discharge it, divorce ourselves from it. But the question is, what if 10% of this feedback is actually true and we're not hearing what the actual facts are, the truth in this, because we're discounting it, discharging, or divorcing ourselves from what people are telling us or what we're getting back? And so that's what we need to do. First off, we seek feedback or it seeks us. The second thing we do is we evaluate it, stripping away emotion, stripping away the evaluation or the meaning that we give it or we lay upon it, and getting it down to the foundational piece of what the feedback actually is. The third step, A, S-E-A. accept the feedback. We just have to accept it. When my mom passed away, it took me 3 weeks before I could accept the fact my new normal was I was never going to talk to her again. 3 weeks. And once I was able to accept that as my new normal, I could move forward. But it took that long for me to do that. So the feedback, whether it's a 1-star review for the business that you manage or you own, or something that you've done, or your product or book or you've written, or the art, or whatever it is, right? You seeked it out, you asked for it, it came to you unknowingly, you evaluated it, and now you have to accept the feedback for what it is. If you don't, you didn't do step 2 properly. You didn't strip away the emotion so you could evaluate it properly. So it's all about step 2 is getting down to that raw base level so you then can accept the feedback for what it is. And then SEAL. So L, learn from the feedback. Wow, this is where we start getting into the juicy part of this. We've seeked it out, or it seeked us out. We've evaluated. We stripped away the definition of it. We stripped away the emotion of it. We are intelligently evaluating what this is. We're accepting the feedback, and now we can ask ourselves, what can we learn from this? How can we learn? How can we, grow personally? How can we help our family grow? How can we help this organization that I'm responsible for leading grow? How can I impact humanity? What can I do with this feedback? What can I do with it? I can learn from this. And so it's all stacks on top of each other. Seek it. It seeks us unexpectedly, right? Then we evaluate it. Then we accept it. Then we learn from it. And before I get to the last L, I'm going to tell you a quick story. 2 weeks after I came up with this, I was working at this iconic hotel on Miami Beach, general manager of a celebrity chef restaurant just off the lobby. And I received my annual review. And it was kind of shady how this went down. See, I'm not evaluating this properly, how it went, right? But there was no printed out evaluation. It wasn't run the way I wanted to. I had to go back to my office, access my profile, print it off. It was just kind of vague about all these things. I could tell they weren't happy with me. They brought up some things that had happened negatively. It was post-COVID, so it was a very tough time. See, I'm victim to this, right? All these type of things. But let me tell you what happened is that luckily I had written the SEAL method just 2 weeks but prior to this. And I was able to, once my emotions calmed down, I realized that this did not meet standard label was put upon me, and I didn't ask for it. It seeked me out. Then I was able to evaluate what happened after my emotions calmed down. I accepted the feedback. I rallied the team with me, my executive chef, the sous chefs, the assistant managers. The team really rallied around us together as we pulled together. And I accepted the feedback. I learned from it, and then I leveraged it. And then my boss at the time, just a month later, he's like, I've never seen anybody turn around this quickly, this effectively, and make the changes that I've asked somebody to make in that short amount of time. And I explained to him what this was, and he goes, wow, this story really has to go in the book. And it is. Because he knew I was writing a book, and this is in there. I've written about it. I haven't published the book yet, but this is the story I wanted to tell, because this is in the Freedom series. So we're freeing yourself from the constriction of feedback, or from freeing feedback from judgment. And that's what we lay upon it. And so this works. I mean, I am a case study on how this works. It came to me, I wrote it, and then I put it in use and completely turned around my performance and went from does not meet standard to highly recommended for my next job. And that's what you can do with this formula. SEAL, and then the last L is leverage. So you seek the feedback, or it seeks you out. You evaluate the feedback for what it truly is. You strip away the emotion. You strip it down, get it to its raw form and with the facts and the truth of what it really is. Then you accept the feedback. Then you learn from the feedback. And then you put in action and you leverage the feedback. Leverage it. So what did I learn? I learned that I was not leading this restaurant from the general manager position. I was allowing other influences hold back the potential. And we were being compared to the other signature venues inside the hotel. And we weren't meeting what the standard was, what the expectations were. And then I started to exceed those expectations to the point to where They had to ask me to slow down because I was pushing too hard and going to and breaking the system to the point to where the other teams couldn't keep up in the kitchen, the busing positions, and things like that. And so, leverage. That's the most important piece of this. There's some quote where you give me the right fulcrum, the right leverage, and I'll move the world, right? But how do you get to that point where leverage? Well, you've got to understand that feedback comes to us from lots of different places. We either seek it or it seeks us. We then evaluate it. And if we don't evaluate it properly, we've had emotion wrapped in that evaluation, this judgment about whether it's positive, neutral, or negative. We can miss out on the most important feedback that can change our lives. And then once you get it down to that truth, down to the facts, you accept it, then you learn from it, and then you leverage the feedback and you make change and transformation in your life. Now that you know all about the SEAL method, and if you want to learn more from us at Epimindset, we want you to start with our newsletter. It comes out every Friday. It covers the 5 domains of life. We start with health span, relationships, personal growth, life, and then how to make more money or your economic impact on the world. So that's the place to start. Click on the link below. Join that. We'll give you a free gift. Cheers.